Hello everyone, Grigory Samargo Electro here. In October 2025, at the regular Canton Fair in Guangzhou, China, the first electric UTV from the company Luton was presented. Without much hesitation, I rushed to their factory to make this express review for you. And here are my first impressions. The UTV itself is not completely finished yet. It's probably about 90% done, so there will be some nuances here, things that will be completed in the future. I'll explain how, or even better, I'll write to the TZ factory so that they finish it the way it should be. Let's start with the suspension. First of all, I want to point out that the wheels here are absolutely huge. These are the biggest wheels I've ever seen on an electric utility vehicle. At the back, we have 29 by 11 14-inch aluminum alloy wheels. In the front, it's 29 by 9.14. So it's the same diameter, but a bit narrower. Here in the front, they're 9s. In the back, 11s, both with alloy wheels, front and rear. The braking system is hydraulic disc brakes with ventilated rotors. Up front, each wheel has a 2-piston caliper, while in the rear, there's a single piston caliper. There's also an electric brake system, meaning each caliper has an electric clamp that's activated from the cabin. I'll show it a bit later. It basically engages the electric handbrake, but only on the rear wheels. To engage the handbrake on the front wheels as well, you need to use the mechanical levers. They stick out. I'll show you the independent suspension, both front and rear. It's a double wishbone with stabilizers. The shocks only have one adjustment. You can only adjust the spring tension. But in terms of softness, that's the highlight. It's significantly more comfortable than every other model I've tried. The front suspension also utilizes two AA-shaped arms. The shock absorber is just mounted differently. On the rear suspension, the shock is attached to the lower arm, and on the front, to the upper arm. There are also stabilizers present in the suspension. It's really well made, I really like it. Let's take a look at how soft this suspension is. Oh, that's really cool. In short, the suspension is just awesome compared to what's currently on the market. Because here you have big 14-inch rims with huge tires, the wheels are just massive. At the same time, the suspension itself is soft, and I'll show you the seats a bit later. They're incredibly soft too. And all of this together creates such an amazing level of comfort. Unfortunately, we haven't driven off-road, we've only been on asphalt, but I think that among electric UTVs, in terms of comfort and suspension softness, this one is top-notch. Just look at how it works. The shock absorber is currently set to the middle position, so you can make it stiffer or softer, but there's only a spring adjustment, so it's not a big deal. But just under my weight, I'm currently 83 kilograms. Just watch closely. It's very soft, really, very soft. Overall, the suspension is just top-notch. Moving on, in the front and back we have two identical motors. Each has a nominal power of about 15 kilowatts and a peak of just over 30. The motors are exactly the same, and so are the controllers. At the moment, you can only drive in all-wheel drive, but now with the reviews, they're planning to add a button for front or rear-wheel drive. Because with two motors, it's very easy to switch the drive on and off. At maximum power, these motors are much more powerful than the motors on any other electric UTV. Fortunately, it's already 2025, and we finally have a choice of electric UTVs. We finally have a decent one. There's a differential lock on both the front and rear motors, and you can turn it on. So by default, it's off, but you can activate it on the front and rear. At the moment, they are activated simultaneously. Maybe in the future, we'll arrange it so you can lock the differential separately on different axles. In the front, we've got a huge winch. Let's see what its capacity is. If there's any information here, well, unfortunately, I don't see it. But judging by the size and the winch, it should be really, really powerful. Oh wait, I can see it. The winch is rated for 2 tons. 2,043 kilograms. The UTV itself, together with the battery, weighs 1,050, I think. So 1 ton 50, plus let's say there are 3 people inside. Each of them weighs about 100 kilograms. That's 1,300 kilos. Let's say there's more weight in the trunk. That's another 300. So even at maximum load, it still won't weigh 2 tons. And the winch here is rated for 2 tons. That's really great. Good job. They really thought it through. Let's move on along the frame. Here we have a spot for attaching a tow hitch. As for the rear bumper, they said it's not a problem. You can install it. They don't have it on this buggy yet, but they'll make it. I think it's necessary because you don't want to damage the rear plastic. There will also be a rear view camera here. This is a nameplate for the license plate. They'll install the rear view camera here. Even their old version of the buggy has a rear view camera. I'm 1.94 meters tall. And just look at how tall it is compared to me. This is the tallest body of any electric buggy I've seen. Yes, gasoline models have a lot more options. They have all sorts of interesting things, but right now we're talking about electric ones. Among electric vehicles, this is the largest UTV in terms of width, wheelbase, and height. By the way, its minimum ground clearance is, I think, 32 centimeters, which is also one of the highest. Just look at this, it's absolutely huge. There's an electric lift installed down here. Now we'll take a look inside the cabin, and I'll show you how it opens and closes. Let's go over the design in general. The design is really cool, very aggressive, very modern. I really like it. They definitely borrowed it from one of the well-known gasoline brands. All the lighting is LED and it looks beautiful. And probably among electric UTVs, at the moment, from what I've seen, this is really top-notch. Specifically in terms of design, looks, and size, it stands out. Very cool, very impressive. Lada-style headlights, projector lenses. Here we also have this kind of unibrow light strip. This little cover here, as I mentioned before, opens up. Underneath it are all sorts of fuses, and the CAN bus itself is located there. So if you want to tune your buggy or need some repairs, you just open it up, connect, do everything you need, and close it back up. And it's really well done that the components like the fuses, CAN bus, and everything else are positioned as high off the floor as possible. So if you drive into some mud or water, you'd have to drive in up to the headlights for the water to start flooding the fuses. The front end looks really beautiful. There are absolutely no complaints about it. It's just awesome. And the color they've chosen for the frame also looks cool. What do we have here? This is the charging unit, and this is the main system controller. Here's the powerful motor. The motor is truly impressive. It's absolutely massive. On the motor it says, rated power is 15 kilowatts, 144 volts, 120 amps. So at peak it's 15, and the nominal is 15 kilowatts. At peak, it's about 30, just over 32, 7,500 revolutions per minute. So I remember that for the first setting, like this. I hope you can see it, even though it's upside down. The motor has an IP67 rating, which means it's protected from rain, but not from submersion. While this motor doesn't actually feature a liquid cooling system, honestly, for such a massive and powerful motor, I truly think that even standard air cooling will be more than enough for most users. Right here, you can immediately see the rear luggage lift mechanism and get a clear view of exactly how the suspension is made. The suspension system is really exceptionally well built. It's honestly great, and I personally really like the design. Well, again, you can judge by the visuals, but after I took a ride, I honestly stopped caring about how the suspension looks. I could feel that it works amazingly, really smoothly. On the left side, there's this little thing here. It snaps open. And here is the charging port. The charging port uses 220 volts. The system is 144 volts. They say the battery charges in 6 hours max. About the cabin. Right now, their door is like this. It's a plastic one, without a window. We talked to the factory representatives. They say that in the future, they want to make a fully enclosed cabin, meaning there will be glass at the back and at the front. There's already glass at the front. It's just that here, the glass and the wiper have been removed, but they are available and can be ordered, and the doors will be made fully closed so that you can seal off the cabin here. I'll talk more about the interior features later. There's air conditioning, but of course, it's not needed without a closed cabin. In its current state, the buggy looks like this. It has a windshield, which is currently removed. The door panel is quite standard, without an upper section. It's just basic plastic on the lower part from the inside. By the way, it's actually pretty decent, just a regular handle, and right here we have a little storage pocket. This is mate plastic. You can see the bolts here, of course, but I don't think that's a big deal. That's acceptable for a buggy. Let's head inside the cabin. Right away, we're greeted by the master switch, battery disconnect switch. So you can turn the battery on or off. Let's start with the seats. First of all, it's stated that there are 3 seats here. There are 3 seat belts. Here's one, here's the second, and there's the third. There are also 3 mounts for the seat belts. 1, 2, 3. The middle seat easily and simply turns into a cup holder like this. So here we have a tray and here a cup holder. If you're driving with 2 people, you can easily use it. It's actually quite convenient. If for some reason you want to carry a third person, just close it and you get a backrest, a headrest, and there are seat belts for it too. But the middle seat is either for a small Chinese girl or for a child. Because look at the distance between the seat belts. What is this? I mean, really, what size does a person have to be for this? Well, in principle, if comfort isn't a priority, you can fit 3 adults. But in an ideal world, of course, you should not do that. I just rode with some Chinese people. We were 3 adults in the car. But again, you have to understand that these were Chinese people. They're generally smaller in size than Europeans. I don't see any adjustments on the passenger seat, but the driver's seat does have reach adjustment, so you can move it forward. Like this, all the way forward. I'm not even sure what to say about that. You could let a child take the wheel. Most likely here we can immediately see the battery, but we're not going to mess with the battery. Because it has a 144 volt system and a lot of information from their CAN bus goes to the display. So there are options. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, you can't equip this buggy with non-factory batteries. Let's close it up. So as I mentioned, the headrests look nice. They don't just hang in the air, which is also an interesting solution since they're attached to the rear frame. And you don't have any extra hardware here, nothing. It's just hanging in the air, supported by the rear frame. It looks interesting. As for the interior itself, I want to say right away, the roof here is impressively high. Just look at it again. It is truly remarkable. As I already mentioned, I'm 1.94 meters tall. And look how much space I have above my head. It's just incredible. About 20 centimeters, maybe even more here. And if a shorter Chinese person sits here, then it's just a huge cabin overall. It's absolutely gorgeous. There are some unfinished details here though. Here we have 4 blank covers for buttons. These are for future functions. Here they're planning to add controls for turning on the LED light bar, the wiper, and something else. They say that if there are orders without certain functions, each button that isn't needed for a function will simply be covered with a piece like this. It'll be covered with a little cap like this. So the buttons you see here now, I'll show them to you. Yes, but this isn't their final placement. A lot of things here are still going to change. Right here, we are actually supposed to have a windshield wiper, but as you can see, it is not installed yet because it has been removed. Now let's move through the interior of the cabin. Overall, the floor is flat throughout the entire cabin area. The gas and brake pedals are quite comfortable to use. There is really nothing negative to say about them. They are just very conveniently positioned for the driver. The only thing that bothered me a little bit is this pedestal for your left foot right here. It feels a bit too short for comfort, primarily because there is a wheel arch located right here. My foot bumps into it. I have big feet, so it's kind of uncomfortable, but you get used to it over time since the seating position is more or less upright and it's generally fine to sit here. But of course, it would be great if it were a bit deeper. Let's move on to the interior. Let's start from the passenger side. What do we have here? Here we have a cup holder and some speakers. Below, there's a shelf for all sorts of stuff. It's pretty deep. You can put anything you want in there. The speakers are here. Speakers on the left and right. You can play music and use the map. Let's move on. What do we have here? Here we have some buttons. This is the electric brake I showed earlier, which is located on the rear calipers. You can turn it on. When you press the gas pedal, it turns on automatically, so you don't have to disengage it every time. Here's the button for raising and lowering the body. By the way, I'll show you now how it lifts up. Let's show it from the side right away. I'm pressing it. So the speed is actually exceptionally slow and deliberate, much like with any other body. Because if you have, say, 400 kilograms loaded and you execute this specific movement very quickly, there is a very high probability you could damage everything. That's the maximum. Here we have the winch button in and out. It's powered by a low voltage line. There's an extra connection there. There's an extra battery there, which is powered by the main battery's DC output. Here we have 2 blank plugs, but I assume that first of all, we'll use these spots to install switches for toggling between all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive, as well as for locking the front and rear differentials. I think that's the most reasonable thing to put on this panel, and you can also see there's space here, probably for 2 more buttons. First of all, there's also something here that I recommend they put on the panel. We'll get into switching modes on the display later, but what's the point right now? Some functions can currently only be activated through the display. Let's leave that for last and go through the other buttons for now. What else do we have? Here. I don't even know what this is. This is for USB, for music. This is a charger. This is a cigarette lighter. This is another charger. To the left, under the steering wheel, by the way, it's conveniently located under your right hand. The R&D selector knob is located here, reverse, neutral. Drive is straightforward, everything is clear, and it's well made and conveniently placed. No complaints about it at all. The switching mechanism is great. The only thing is that right now the reverse camera doesn't turn on when you shift into reverse, since it hasn't been installed yet. It will be installed later and will display on the screen. Here we have the ignition key. Nothing unusual. Turn it on, turn it off. During a short break, we found out, first of all, that this cover will be changed in the future. It will be modified so that it opens on hinges, not like this, so it doesn't just fall into your hand, but opens properly and stays in place like this. Secondly, it seems the top compartment also opens. It is also not completely finished just yet, but the main point is that there is quite a lot of extra space in here. It just closes and opens with these little snaps like this. I was honestly afraid I might break it off, but actually, it opens with some effort. Alright, let's move to the left side. What do we have here on the driver's side? First of all, there's also a cup holder. And here we have 2 buttons. One hasn't been installed yet, it's not in place. The second one isn't connected yet. This is for the emergency power cutoff, meaning you can just hit this button and immediately shut off all of the power. On the control panel itself, there are quite a lot of these protective covers. Here is one right here. Here is another one. And there is one more over there. That one is for the air conditioning unit. Now we'll show the display in more detail. I'll explain what's there. And here we have this kind of lever. This is a mechanical handbrake. How does it work? You press the brake and simply pull it up all the way. That's it. It's locked in place. Basically, it's made like metal petals on brake handles. It's meant to provide extra safety. Even though you have a handbrake, an electric one for the rear wheels, it doesn't lock everything. But the brake pedal works on all 4 wheels with hydraulic disc brakes and it clamps them. So if you want to lock everything as much as possible to make sure it doesn't roll away anywhere, use this thing. Otherwise, just release it, lower it, and you're good to go. Here's another interesting detail. The steering wheel is adjustable here. There's a lever under the right side of the steering wheel. When you pull it towards you, you can either lower the steering wheel to its minimum position or raise it to its maximum. You'd be driving like a gazelle driver or something. Honestly, it's even uncomfortable here because your fingers, they'll just get pinched between the display. Basically, the maximum position, I don't know who that's for. It's really easy to smash your fingers against the display in that position. All right, let's lower it a bit. Okay, moving on. About the steering wheel, my compliments, honestly. First of all, just look at how it's made. It's a multifunctional steering wheel. We've got volume controls here, turn signals. By the way, I've never seen a steering wheel like this. See, the turn signals are actually on the steering wheel. That's a convenient design, although maybe not when making a selection. Alright, that's not the point. Set, reset, that's for controls. This is for skipping tracks. By the way, this is for the low and high beams. It switches them, and honestly, it's pretty cool. And here is the cruise control button. Cruise control doesn't work yet, but it will in the future. Although, again, I don't know why you'd need cruise control on a buggy. That's a questionable idea. The steering wheel is awesome, versatile, and convenient. In my opinion, this is the best steering wheel among electric buggies I've seen. Let's move on to the display. Now I'll move the steering wheel so you can see the display better, like this. Let's look at the display and see what it shows here. Here we have the drivetrain, your low and high beam headlight indicators, the gear, electric parking, voltage, the current state of your battery charge percentage, speed, and kilowatts. This is the consumption. And when you're regenerating, the numbers will actually start to go negative here. It shows exactly how many negative kilowatts are being produced. Basically, it's very similar to the display on the Diamond that we have. Next, ODO, total mileage, trip mileage for the session, normal. I think this is, yes, normal, sport, eco. This is the speed displayed here. Below, range is 0 kilometers. I don't know what this is. Maybe it's how far you've driven after stopping. Next, an interesting feature, by the way. Average consumption per 100 kilometers. 16 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Below that, we have the time, and that seems to be it. But that would be all if there wasn't a second display here. There's just a huge, massive screen right here. And here, I don't even know where to start. First of all, let's start with the fact that it has CarPlay and Android Auto. You can turn on the navigation system, you can play your favorite music, you can turn on the digital radio, and you can easily connect your phone. Basically, there's a ton of stuff. Look, we've switched to sport mode. Sport. There are tons of different settings here, including recuperation and the differential lock. There's really a lot of stuff. But since it's all in Chinese for now, we won't be figuring it all out. But in the future, it's very convenient that basically the specific buttons you need will be brought out to the main panel here, there, and in places where we have free buttons. Everything else can be set up here. That is, you don't need to go into some app or anything else. Just open the display, pull down the shade. You swipe down, set up what you need, and move on. And it's really cool that you can turn things on right here. Navigation, CarPlay also it seems, and Android Auto isn't connected either. So for now, this isn't functional here, but the point is that the option exists, and that's really, really cool. Again, I haven't seen such deep settings in any other electric utility vehicle as the ones here. Well, first of all, what do I want to point out right away? It's insanely soft and comfortable. All right, we'll get to that. In short, it's insanely soft and comfortable. The suspension is very soft because there are two motors here. One in the front and one in the back. Separately, there's no drive shaft that rattles and clatters. And everything feels very smooth, very comfortable. There are absolutely no extra noises. Everything is super soft. What? I said, please don't freak out, okay? It's really, really soft. Of course, we're driving on smooth asphalt right now, but still, even on any other surface. In a UTV, you can feel how the suspension and motors work, but here it's just incredibly soft. The power steering feels nice. Not too light, but you can turn it easily without any effort. Look, I'm turning it with just one finger. You can feel that this thing is heavy, it weighs over a ton. But that's actually a plus, because it's awesome. By the way, there's a steep climb here. Let's try it now. Now I'm going to try the climb, pressing the pedal just lightly to see how it pulls. Keep tension on it. We're going at the minimum speed. At 5 kilometers per hour, then 4 kilometers per hour. This vehicle doesn't have a traditional mechanical low gear, but because it is equipped with two electric motors with 30 kilowatts of torque each and a 144 volt system, it has plenty of pulling power. It really has more than enough power. You don't even need a mechanical low gear here. Let me try it again like this. Pedal to the minimum. 5 kilometers. By the way, it's showing a consumption of 4.5 kilowatts. What's up? Is that low? No? Moreover, going uphill? Yeah, uphill. 400 kilometers. That's strange. We'll figure this out later. You know what's interesting? The tires here are really big. The wheels are big, the tires are huge, the suspension is capacious, and the seats are soft too. Seriously, the seats are really soft. Oh, yeah. And all of this gives you the impression that you're riding something really expensive, like a UTV. The comfort is amazing. We've only just started testing the UTV, and it turns out that even in sport mode with the pedal floored, with the gas pedal floored, it has turbo lag. They claim this setting is because they were tuning the recuperation and somehow they need turbo lag for recuperation. Who knows why, but there it is. We immediately brought out their engineers and kept going. Now we're going to change this parameter because there's no point in continuing the test drive if such a powerful electric UTV has turbo lag as if it were some, I don't know, 500cc gasoline engine. So we'll fix it now. We went to the engineers. They say there's electric braking. Right now we're going downhill and the power consumption is going negative. So they do have engine braking, regenerative, but it's pretty weak. It's not even enough to slow you down when going downhill. You still have to use the brakes. We'll need to discuss this as well so they can adjust it. Stronger in the settings. I don't know, maybe another 100% on top. We did several tests, set up an acceptable dynamic setting, and they got rid of that turbo lag. Now I'll show you what it looks like in the current mode. Let me show you what we got in terms of dynamics. It turned out very well, pretty lively. You can definitely squeeze even more dynamic performance out of this UTV and make it even livelier because the engines here are really powerful. Each motor is 30 kilowatts, 2 motors in total, but for now we've finished the adjustments because there's simply no more time to spend the whole day at the factory tuning it today. Let me show you exactly how this works. Get ready for the countdown. 3, 2, 1, let's go. What you really need to do is highlight the wheel on the camera. Now you will notice there is absolutely no turbo lag whatsoever, and I'm going to press the gas pedal down right away. Here we go again. 1, 2, 3, let's move. Picks up really well. Briefly, here are my thoughts about this UTV. First of all, regarding the technical specs, size, power, and design. This model is head and shoulders above all other electric UTVs currently on the market. Secondly, this is the first electric UTV that can truly compete with gasoline-powered ones, not just because it has the advantages of electric vehicles. And thirdly, in my opinion, in 2026, this will be the best-selling electric UTV. That's why we signed an exclusive distribution agreement for this model and are now working together with the factory to refine it. It's about 85% ready, and even in this state, it could already be sold. But you only get one chance to make a first impression, so we're playing it safe and perfecting it further. We will film a review of the final version with all the changes and additions in the spring of 2026, and the first batch is planned for May.